My name is Matt Herz with Prosoco. This is just a Consolideck, kind of a 101 going into some of the protective treatments, cleaners, hardeners, maintenance items, and decorative color. So go ahead to the next slide. So Prosoco, we're based out of Lawrence, Kansas, and we started in 1939. Went through a few changes, and as you can see now, the current Prosoco in 2014 changed its logo, but we started out as the Process Solvent Group and have kind of evolved since then. Started out, go to the next slide, Kristen. Started out actually cleaning cooling systems for vehicles. So that's kind of how we started cleaning out all of the radiators, and it's kind of grown into what we are today. Go ahead. And you can see in the pictures there we started out cleaning radiators, but then went into bricks and masonry. And that's kind of our legacy business. That's how we, kind of our backbone of our business. Go ahead to the next slide. Here's our headquarters in Lawrence, Kansas. Built in 1999. Majority of our materials are manufactured here in Lawrence. So it is a very state-of-the-art facility. We kind of pride our fact that we make everything in-house. So go ahead to the next slide. This is our current and future leadership. David Boyer, Bruce Boyer, and then David's son, Jake Boyer, which some of you guys may know. That's just kind of the lineage of the leadership. And then we have three main lines at Prosoco. We have our SureClean line. That's our legacy business, cleaners and protective treatments for masonry. Consolideck, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then our R-Guard, which is our air barrier, vapor barrier. And that is fairly new along with the Consolideck. Go ahead. Good, there you go. So Consolideck is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be going over the prepare the concrete floor, to harden the concrete floor, the decorative colors aspect of it, protecting and maintaining it. So we're going to go over the cleaner degreaser, concrete floor restore, oil and water stain, oil and grease stain remover, some other ones that that help prepare the floor for grinding, sealing, just cleaning the floor to make sure you have a clean substrate for whatever you're going to put, whatever protective treatment you're going to put on the floor. So grind and fill, that is our, it's an acrylic base that you mix in with your concrete grinder, usually during the last metal phase or hybrid. If it makes enough dust, what it does is it incorporates the dust into the grinding process, and it basically pushes in and binds with that grind and fill, and fills in the micro pits, the small pinholes, so you have a lot more shiny. It's going to be a lot more, you're going to have a lot more light reflectivity, because when you have, especially when you have a really porous floor, those really small pinholes can take away from the clarity of the floor. First cut, this basically is when you're going to be grinding wet. I know that Runyon has been using a lot of our first cut with densifier, which we'll go into. But what it does is it suspends the slurry so that it's not down into on the ground. And what happens is that gets into the diamonds and starts to clog them up. So it suspends the slurry, keeps your diamonds cutting very clean. It gives you a lot easier cleanup, because that slurry, especially when it starts to get a little bit gummy, is really hard to get off the floor. It has a lot of suction on the floor. Cleaner degreaser. This is just a basic cleaner you can dilute with water to whatever ratio you want to do. It's a commercial strict detergent. What it does is it removes all the latents and contaminants that are on the floor. So you can put it in an auto scrubber. It's a really good cleaner, even when you're just starting out to clean a dissipating cure and seal. If there's any latents left over the top of that, it does a really good job of breaking that surface tension of all that dirt and grime that's on the floor. Concrete floor restore. This is a cleaner that you can use to get rid of metallic stains that are on the floor. It's a really good cleaner. It's going to be a lot more heavy duty than the cleaner degreaser. It's water rinsable and no muriatic acid in it. And it will not affect the concrete colors. So if you have integral color in the floor, it's not going to affect that at all. But it's a really good, depending on what state you're in, you can use this in most facilities. It's a very low odor, so it won't have an offensive odor like some acidic cleaners do. Oil and grease stain remover. This is a poultice type cleaner, so it's different than the other cleaners that you just put into an auto scrubber or into a sprayer. What this does is, if you have relatively new oil stains, it's not really recommended for stains that have been in the concrete for many years, because that typically will go through the whole way through the slab, or at least go deeper into the slab. So as a poultice, it will dry. You put it on about an inch outside of whatever the oil spot is, and it will dry overnight, typically in 24 hours, depending on the humidity that you have. And during that drying process, it's going to leach out that oil from the surface. And then it gives you a chance to come back with your cleaner degreaser or whatever cleaner and clean that oil off and get rid of that stain. And like I said, it's typically used on newer stains. So if you have a really old stain, it might not get it out. You may have to do 1 or 2 applications to try to leach that oil stain out. So this is just a small video on how to apply it. And you see as it dries, it kind of cracks and pulls that spot out of the floor. And that's it. Wax and cure remover. So this is designed for existing sealers like typically our polish guard, acrylic sealers, any kind of wax that's on a VCT floor. What this does is it breaks down the chemical bond of that product, and you want to let it dwell on there for a few minutes. Let it break down that whatever sealer is on the floor, and then scrub it up either with an auto scrubber or with a brush and a squeegee to get that cure off of the floor. Typically more used for topical sealers like waxes and sealers. Cure and seal remover. This is going to have a little bit more odor to it, a little more offensive odor to it. It is more designed for high solids cures. When you're removing those cures, you want to have something that's going to break that down. Typically on a cure and seal on a new concrete floor, they do tend to over apply that stuff. So if you have a customer or a client that has a really thick cure and seal, this is what they would need to use to break that down so you can get back down to the substrate. It does say low odor. That's kind of subjective. It does have a little bit more odor than the wax and cure remover. So this is going to be typically used, like I say, on a cure and sealed floor that you're just trying to get it off without having to grind it. Pre-clean, this is a latent and salt remover. So if you have a little bit efflorescence on the floor, this does a good job of getting some of that really light efflorescence off of the floor. Use it after curing blankets to try to remove some of that differential curing that's on the floor. It's really good for auto scrubbers, and it has no odor like some of the other cleaners that we have. Safe etch. If you have a floor that you're trying to put color down, you're not trying to grind the floor, you just want to prepare the substrate to accept color or accept a densifier more effectively, or just put a sealer on. Sometimes you need a little bit more for that sealer, that color, that densifier to grab onto. So this is a really good option when you're preparing a floor to accept any of those things. This is one that I added. I've talked to a few guys at Runyon about the light duty concrete cleaner. This is a really good thing to have in your arsenal when you have rust stains that are on, especially on a new concrete floor. We've run into a lot of efflorescence, especially if there's no vapor barrier on an older slab. It tends to kind of show its head underneath mats or areas that the moisture is going to be trapped. So I get calls all the time on how do I get rid of this white haze or efflorescence that's on the floor. This is a really good product to use to get rid of that. It's a hydrofluoric acid, so it's not going to etch the surface of the concrete. Again, you can use it in multiple ratios. We tend to go lighter first, so you don't have to do as much cleaning. But this is really good for efflorescence, staining, and if you have deep biological stains, like leaves that are on a slab that have stained it, this will work really well to get rid of those stains that are on that concrete. Okay, we're going to go into the harden aspect of it. This is our densifiers. So LS densifier, this is our kind of our flagship densifier for polished concrete. It's a purely lithium-based densifier. It does have very high coverage rates, easy application. When you're doing a high polish, we consider high polish, 800 grit and up. You can still use it on a 400 grit, but this is a pure lithium silicate that you want to use on those highly polished floors. Blended densifier. So we blended a mix of potassium silicate and lithium silicate. One of the reasons why we have blended densifier is when you have a floor that is more open, we've seen a lot more grind and seal type floors where they're only taking it up to 80 grit, 100 grit, 200 grit, and then they're gonna put a sealer on it and harden it. This has a potassium that will stay up higher in the floor so that it won't penetrate as deep as the smaller lithium molecule will. So it'll have more silicate at the surface, and you can either burnish it or just leave it as is. That way you have more silicate that's going to remain on the top on those more porous floors. On new concrete slab warehouse floors, this is a really good densifier to use, so you do keep more of that silicate on the surface. First cut with densifier. I know Runyon is very familiar with this product. We've taken our first cut, and which is a blend of surfactants to help suspend that slurry. And we've added a densifier to it. What this allows you to do when you're power trowel polishing or wet polishing, either way, it allows you to densify the floor during your first 2, 3, 4 steps, so that you don't have to do a full densification following the grinding process when you're done with the wet grinding. It saves a lot of time. Most floors will densify enough to where you don't have to do a full densification step. So it basically blends the first cut, which is our cutting aid, with the densifier. Cut down on time, especially when you're talking big warehouse floors. Do a separate densification step, and you have to wait till it dries, and that just takes time. So that's why we came up with that. It's a fairly new product that we have. This is just a coverage rate, gives you 300 to 600 square feet a gallon. First application, roughly 600 to 1,000 after. Most times they're going to be pre-wetting the floor anyway. And we launched that in November of 2018, and it's been a big mover for us, especially with the popularity of the power trowel polishing. So it looks like the title on this got changed, I'm not sure, but this is LSCS. This is our final densifier. Whenever you're talking about dust proofing, this is kind of our answer to dust proofing. Most dust proofing is done with Ashford formula or Diamond Hard or some other sodium silicate. We don't manufacture a sodium densifier. They're very labor intensive. You have to agitate the surface to break down that surface tension in order to get that silicate to actually penetrate into the concrete. With LSCS, all you have to do is put it down with a microfiber pad, spray it down with the Hudson sprayer, and then you can put your whatever cure and seal you're putting over the top of it to cure the concrete. And then once that dissipating cure or cure and seal has been removed, you now have a dust-proofed floor. So a lot less labor to achieve the same thing as a sodium would, and it saves you a ton of time on there. You can go to the next one. So 244 salt screen additive. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of this product. What this is an additive that you can put into LS or LSCS. It will block the chloride screen. It's basically a chloride screen to not allow those damaging salts to get into the slab. So you add it into the densification step, and it will give you a lot more protection from outside salts that are coming from the atmosphere or from road salts, de-icing salts. It just helps protect that from those saltwater molecules. Saltwater molecule expands roughly 3 times that of a regular water molecule. So if anybody's seen a driveway that's been spalled, even my own driveway has been spalled by putting salts on it, it will, during a freeze thaw, basically pop off that cream, especially on an outside slab. So it's a good additive if they're wanting a little bit more protection from the salt. So now we're going to get into our decorative color, gem tone stain, color hard integral color for overlays. So gem tone stain, you can see there on the color chart, 25 different colors. What's neat about gem tone is you can actually use it in water or any solvent. So it will dissolve in any carrier that you want to put it in. Water is generally what guys will use, or they'll use acetone, or what I like to use is denatured alcohol, because it gives you a little bit longer dwell time and it doesn't flash off as fast as acetone does. And usually this is typically applied after your 200 grit or your 400 grit resin, depending on how high up you're taking the floor. And then you're typically going to densify right after that step to help lock that color in. Color decks. So these are our transparent color decks. It basically gives you a transparency you can put onto the floor, whether it's color hard or gem tone. And it'll give you a little bit better idea than just looking at a color on a color chart to what that color is going to look like. So you just grab whatever color you're looking at and you put it down onto the concrete itself, and it gives you a fairly close representation of what that color is going to look like on your particular slab. Integral color. This is something that is fairly new. We launched it mid last year. That picture in the middle is an example of a floor we did in San Francisco, where they used glass and different aggregates to more look like a terrazzo floor. And that's an example of the 10-ounce bottle that you're going to be putting into it. So you add it to any kind of overlay. We did our initial testing with Rapid Set, but you can put it in Ardex, you can put it in Shonox, you can put it in Mapei. We've done testing on all of the overlays that are, at least the larger ones that are out there. This is our integral color chart. So this particular one was with Rapid Set. We're currently working on getting one done for all the other manufacturers that are out there. Some of the overlays do have a pigment that's already in place. Some of them have a white pigment. Some of them have a gray or a black pigment that they put in there. So it's really important to do a mock-up with whatever color you choose. It will get you close. But for instance, I've seen using an Ardex product versus a Rapid Set, their pigment level is different. So you want to make sure you do a mock-up on site to make sure you get the right color. So each of these comes in a 10-ounce bottle, and typically you're going to do one bottle to one bag. You can intensify the color. We recommend up to 3 bottles per bag is kind of your max without having to compensate for water. As you know, these overlays are very sensitive to the water mix ratio. So we had that picture that was on the first slide of the integral color. They'd actually used 5 bottles per bag to get that really, really dark black. But you do reach a point of saturation. In my opinion, that was probably a little bit too much color, but they still wanted to use that much color regardless. Typically 3-4 bottles max, and you're gonna start to not really do anything to the color. You pretty much saturated the mix. So, and it does maintain a long shelf life, so. So now we're going to get into the protect of your polished concrete floor, your Polish Guard, LS Guard, Guard EXT, and protectors. This is one of our most popular concrete protectors. It's a concrete protector SB, which stands for solvent base. It is a fully penetrating sealer that it's non-enhancing. However, it will typically darken the slab just a little bit, but it's really good to use in conjunction with a lot of our guard products like our Polished Guard and LS. The slab, if you have an area that's going to get a lot of spillage or staining, it's going to protect that and give you a lot more time to get that stain cleaned up. It's a solvent base. It's very low odor, and it can, some of the penetrating sealers out there have a fluoropolymer that cannot be burnished. This one can be burnished right after you apply it, but you typically want to let it sit before you burnish it, especially if you're putting it over the top of a guard. Polish guard, this is going to be our higher solids sealer. It's going to give you a little bit more chemical resistance than per se like the LS guard will. It is the main difference between the polished guard and LS guard, which we'll get into, is the polished guard is an air cured product, meaning shit to get it to cure. You do want to let it sit on the slab for, we recommend at least 20, or trying to clean it, the better to allow a full cure. It's very repairable and breathable. It is UV stable, EOC compliant in all the states. LS guard, this is going to give you a little bit more abrasion resistance than the polished guard does. The polished guard tends to be a little softer. LS guard does, however, need to be heat cured. So you have to get this guard up to 91 degrees in order for it to chemically cure. That is the main difference between the polished guard and the LS guard. So like I said, this is going to give you a little bit more abrasion resistance than the polished guard will. It tends to not leave as much of a high buildup on the floor. So it gives you that more of a natural look. So LS guard is probably our most popular guard product that we sell. You can go ahead to the next slide. Salt guard, this is similar to the 244 salt screen additive. This is just a pure salt guard. So you can use it on sidewalks, driveways, pavers, anything outdoors. What this is going to do is going to allow your concrete to look more aesthetic, keep that cream layer on the surface a lot longer, because it will screen those salts. It will keep water from penetrating into the slab itself. So any of these buildings that you're going into, a lot of for you to make a sale on protecting that new concrete, keeping it looking newer for longer. And like you can see, you basically just put it down with the Hudson sprayer, let it dry, and it's pretty simple to apply, and it's a good add-on to whatever building you're going into, especially if it's a new construction. So the floor coating, we've been talking about getting something going for a while now. We did have one that was going to come online and ran into some issues with it. We are currently testing a product right now for a 1 and 2 component for your grinding seals, which is becoming much more popular these days, it seems like to me. Hopefully we will have something done, tested, and product to go out within the next 3 to 4 months. And have a product launch because we've had a lot of demand for a floor coating, bolts 1 and 2, and it'll come in a matte and gloss as well. So we'll get into the maintenance side of it. Our daily clean, which is our daily cleaner, daily clean ultra, and all of these numbers just mean what it can be mixed into. LS clean ultra. You can go ahead to the next slide. This is our dispensing unit that we have. So it's a good idea when you're turning these floors over to the building owner or a client is to give them, we have our maintenance manual that you can give them, which is online, it's on our website. But what this does is you can just give them the cleaner, they put this on the wall and it dispenses the cleaner to the predetermined amount, whatever it would be to go into their auto scrubber. It's a good insurance policy to protect that floor. I get calls daily in regards to a floor that has not been cleaned properly on a polished floor and have etching using acidic cleaners or caustic cleaners. This is a good way to kind of ensure the longevity of the floor that you had just finished. And go ahead. So like I was saying, you can go to the next slide, Kristen. I was talking about, new opportunities, salt guard, looking at restoration cleaners. I mean, Prosoco has a full line on our SureClean line that is designed for restoration cleaning, protective treatments, waterproofing. It's a good opportunity, since you guys are in these buildings all the time, to add on to what you guys are already doing, not just doing the floor, but doing the masonry outside or cleaning the masonry outside. So just keep your eyes open for new opportunities. This is just an example of a restoration cleaning. You can go to the next one. There's another example of a building that was cleaned. You guys are seeing these giant warehouse buildings all the time. A lot of them have already been occupied, so they could use a cleaning on the outside. And then we also offer a line of graffiti removal and graffiti prevention, sacrificial coatings that go outside. Again, it's just another add-on to a client that may have a worry about their building getting tagged with graffiti. And this is just an example of graffiti removal. Like I said, we have treatments to remove it, treatments to prevent it. So one of the things that that we tout ourselves here at Proscoco is our support we have for our distributors and for our customers and clients. We have 4 technical reps that are spread throughout the country. We also have independent reps as well as regional managers that are here to take calls for whatever problem. If you need sample material to try, we're more than willing to send it out to you guys so you can try it. We offer, when we can, again, when all this COVID stuff is over, offer on-site training. We can train your guys' crew so that they know how to use it. The one thing I would say is that those guys that are out there working, they get comfortable with the system and they tend to not deviate from that. And there may be other things out there that we can offer that may be a better solution for what they're doing. Not only for the client, but just the longevity of it. So you have fewer callbacks, you're not having to go out to these sites and fix things all the time. So get us involved as much as you can. We're very willing to do that. You can go ahead. We are chemical people. That's all we do. You can go to the next one, Kristen. That's all we do. We don't make joint fillers, overlays. We don't do any of that. We are a specific chemical manufacturer. So we're kind of in a unique niche with the rest of our competition. This is all we do, and we coming from our background with our legacy products like our cleaners and protective treatments. It gives us a lot of background. There's a lot of crossover between the lines that allows us to have crossover on job sites where we've seen just about everything there is out there when it comes to problems that it comes to chemical wise. So one thing we also tout ourselves on is the amount of testing. We have a third-party lab that's in-house that we do testing with them, with AMT. If you look at, you can go to the next slide, Kristen. If you look at all of the accreditations that we have, Declare, Living Building Challenge, LEED certified, there's not very many manufacturers out there that have the amount of, accreditations that we do. It takes a lot of investment as a company to get these accreditations. So we're very proud of all of these that we have. And if you go to our website, under every data sheet or every product line that we have all of our testing information, safety data sheets, other resources that you can use when you're submitting for a bid. It goes a long way with architects to have these labels on this product. So it is important. Make sure you keep that in mind. And this is just another example of accreditations we have. Food safety, the NSF, indoor air quality, and the Green Building Council. Go ahead. Again, like I was saying earlier, customer support is one thing that we really pride ourselves on. On-site support, phone support, training, and laboratory support. Those are big. I get calls all the time on how has this been tested for abrasion or breathability or anything else. More than likely, we've already done the testing for it. So just give us a call and we can send you all that information that you very, very tenured inside sales team for all aspects of our business, whether it be the R-Guard line or the SureClean line or the Consolideck line. So give us a call inside and they'll take care of you. Any samples as well. You can just click through all those, Kristen. You still there? Is that the end of it, Kristen?
Sorry, I was on mute the whole time, Matt. I was talking back and forth with you. That was the end of the presentation.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, it looks like a couple of slides got left off. It's no big deal. One thing I had a slide on there that gave the contact information for me. I don't know if you want me to tell that to everybody so that they can write it down.
Yeah, that's fine.
Email, and I'm sure that it's on the email. So my cell phone number is 360-409-3106. And if you go to our website, you can get the numbers of all of the technical reps that are across the country. And then my email address is matt.herz@prosoco.com. I didn't know if we had any questions.
Let's see. We got a couple of chats here. Looks like one of the questions on here, Matt, can you use light duty cleaner on other substrates like masonry stone?
Yeah. Yeah, you can use it on exterior brick, CMU. We tend to not. It depends on what type of mortar is used. We have a different cleaner. It's designed for a little bit more sensitive brick and colored brick. But yeah, your typical brick, CMU, outside concrete, tilt-up walls. That's not a problem.
Awesome. Are there any other questions that we have from the attendees list? If so, please ask them now. Just a little housekeeping for you guys. All of these webinars that we're going to be having from last week and from this week, they will be included up on our website and our YouTube channel here in the coming days. I believe we have the majority of last week already up, and a couple from this week are up as well. So if you guys missed any or you want to share any with other team members on your crews, please feel free to go to our website. They are all up there. So you should be able to find them on there. Another question we have on here, Matt, how long will polish guard and LS guard likely last before needing another coat?
That's a very open-ended question, but typically it'll last 4 to 5 years with regular foot traffic. What's nice about both of those is that they can be repaired and reapplied in the high traffic areas. So if you need to reapply it, but typically you're going to get 4 to 5 years of life. I've seen floors that are inside of a not heavily used building that have lasted 10 years without any problems.
Awesome. We have another question here. Is cleaner degreaser too harsh for maintenance used on a polished floor?
No, it's not. Like I was saying, you can dilute that down to 1 part cleaner degreaser to 20 parts water and put it in an auto scrubber, and it'll be a fairly light duty cleaner. We recommend daily clean only because it's a pH neutral cleaner, so we know exactly what the neutrality of it is before they put it on the floor. But yeah, you can use cleaner degreaser in a heavy dilution without a problem. It's not going to damage the floor. One thing I will add that goes with the daily clean, the LS clean is something you're going to do when you're doing like a monthly cleaning. It's got a lithium siliconate in it that will help bolster that finish and put a little bit of silicate into the floor. So just so you're aware on the LS clean, that's what that stands for.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions on the table here, Matt. So thank you again for your presentation. It was great. It was very educational for us. I got a lot out of it, and I know Bosco probably did as well. So thank you again, Matt. Again, if any of our attendees would like this webinar or any other ones, please feel free to head to our website. There should be a tab on there for webinars, and you should be able to find all the recorded webinars that we have held so far. We have one more this week tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern, and then that's going to be it for this week. We haven't yet decided on where we're moving in the future for our webinar series, but we will send out emails to all of you guys and let you know if we're going to continue on. It might move to something like once a month or twice a month or something like that. So tune back in tomorrow for our last one of this week, and we'll let you know some more information then. So thank you guys again for attending. We appreciate it.